Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of BrandCraft. I'm your host, Ann Wynn, owner of Amplified Marketing, where we work with purpose-driven brands and nonprofits to help you create marketing that matters so you can continue to make that impact in the world. I launched BrandCraft earlier this year as a way to feature small but mighty, amazing marketing teams doing wonderful, amazing work with few resources. And I know that there are many out there who can this for whom this resonates. And I've loved the opportunity to be able to also feature my friends on this show who have long done amazing, wonderful, inspirational work in content marketing, social media marketing, and digital marketing overall. And today's guest is Erika Heald, whom I met actually through a Twitter chat, and we'll talk about that as well. And she is an experienced B2B content marketer and really content marketer extraordinaire, and an often sought after speaker on content marketing. And she has her own consulting agency and, just an all around content marketing expert. I know we oftentimes don't like to use the word expert ourselves, but somebody else can call you an expert because Erika is definitely somebody I look up to, admire, and can learn from. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring her on the stage.
Thank you for such a nice intro.
Of course, because you are an amazing person. I know I've used the word amazing several times. I need a thesaurus. But I did a very brief intro of you, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about yourself and anything that you would like the audience to know about you.
Well, I always like to say that I'm a recovering magazine journalist because that's what I went to school for. It's what I always wanted to do. And unfortunately, when I graduated into the job market and moved to San Francisco, I found out that that was a fantastic hobby, side hustle, etc., and not such a great job. So not a great way to make a living unless you enjoyed living with, 12 other people in an apartment. And
Yeah.
that was so not me.
Yeah. No, I kind of need my own space. I could barely live with one other person in an
Exactly.
apartment.
So I pretty quickly, transferred all those skills into doing what we now call content marketing. But then it was called things like Marcom or being, head of publications. So it's just been really fun to see, how the field has changed over the years. And
The
I ended up,
evolution, right?
yeah, exactly. So I worked
Absolutely.
in I
Oh,
worked in-house, for nonprofits, Fortune 500, Fortune 50. And then 8 years ago, I went out completely on my own. I had flirted with freelancing. I had flirted with going out on my own previously, but this time it really stuck.
that's awesome. And once you go out on your own, it's really very difficult to go back into that corporate space. Just speaking from my own experience, and I know for you, and even though we have those kind of ups and downs and the bumpy road of being an entrepreneur, the pros far outweigh the cons.
So true. So true.
So I think you and I did meet via a Twitter chat, right? So for those who may not be familiar, because it's probably been some time since there's been a consistent community around a Twitter chat, we used to do this thing on Twitter weekly where we met and talked and chatted about a specific topic. Content chat, which we're going to talk about today, which was Erika's show chat, now a show. And I used to host mobile chat, and we would talk about all things mobile, right? And it was such a great way to build a community, feature a guest, build a community, and just have some fun on Twitter. And I miss those days immensely.
I do too. There was just something awesome about the fact that you could use a hashtag and you would actually see all of the people, responding and using that hashtag in real time in chronological order. No one had to pay any money to participate. You were able just to kind of do a really nice crowdsourced conversation to get advice and share advice on, any kind of a topic.
Oh, for sure.
Loved it.
And and making those connections. And I met so many people that have become friends. And we were friends on the online world before we met in IRL, as the kids call it. Do they still use that term nowadays? IRL?
Sometimes.
And then you and I were able to connect, like, I think at Content Marketing World in
That's
person.
right. That's
So
where we finally met in person.
yeah, and we'll talk about Content Marketing World in a little bit too. Share this, share a shout out. I know I like RIP Twitter chats. And so I'd love to start the conversation with, I know we need a crying emoji on here. You took the reins over actually for Content Chat, which was a Twitter chat, and I think it was about 8 years ago. And so, what inspired you to go ahead and take the reins over for the chat and the community, and kind of talk through that transition into a
Sure.
LinkedIn live stream?
So I'd been a loyal community member for Content Chat from when Janice Frye was running it, and then she eventually passed the reins to Lucy. Um, and it was one of those situations where the chat started happening a lot less frequently because Lucy Render Scott. Um, she had too much going on, and she really was pivoting from doing marketing consulting to her acting. And it was one of those things that I realized I was really bummed. I missed starting off my week with talking about content with other marketers. And I remember it was Martin Lieberman who really gave me the like little push I needed, and Chris Sparrows. They were like, you should do it. You should raise your hand and say you take it on. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh
But
my god!
then but then I was like, well, we'll see. And I just, I said, hey, I don't want this chat to end. I'd love to take it over. And Lucy was like, please take it. um, and so I did. And the timing was great because I ended up, I think, hosting my first one right around the same time that I went out on my own. So it was just like really kind of perfect timing
Yeah.
because it meant that, while I was going to be working from home for myself, that I still had, a date to talk shop with people every week.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful sense of community. And all these folks that you're mentioning, shout out to Lucy and Martin and Chris. I mean, all people I met on either Aaron Kilby's, oh gosh, what was the name of his chat for a while too, or some other chats. And so this is truly how we made connections back then. And I truly, truly miss it. Right. So initially, when you took the reins over, was there a period of time where you had to kind of rebuild that traction that the chat had gained, or because you'd already been such an active community member, it was an easy shift?
I think it was probably a little bit easier just because I had been an active community member, and I started it off easy by having a session where I asked everybody, like, what did they want to learn? What were they interested in? And then I totally juiced things up by having, like, in my first month, I want to say that I had like Ann Handley and Joe Plitzy and Andy
Oh,
Christina. So like I asked every amazing speaker I knew to be a guest on the chat. So it was kind of like cheating. It felt like cheating.
no,
Just
that's not cheating. It's leveraging those relationships we have.
exactly. And I think for me, that was really what got off to such a great start, is that I committed to having a guest. The only times we wouldn't have a guest is if we had a scheduled, half annual, half yearly or yearly look back and, crowdsourcing what we should, who we should have on next, et cetera. Or if somebody canceled last minute. But
Yeah,
other than that, we would always have a guest. So I think people knowing that they would always, they take away something new. They would
absolutely.
learn something new or meet somebody new by coming to the chat. And I think that consistency was what really helped it get going.
Absolutely. And all the little side conversations that happened during the Twitter chat, it was so fun. And it was
Like
just,
Taco Cat.
yes. And spa chat. Shane Shaps and I were talking about spa chat all the time too. And it was a very lively, 30 minutes or however long the chat was going on. I mean, truly the time just flew by like that. And that the energy around a Twitter chat was infectious, I feel. And
Totally.
yeah. And so, having to make the transition, and I've done the same for I no longer do Twitter chats, and I moved to a live streaming platform. Having to make that transition, or thinking about making that the transition, right? What were the challenges, and did it feel like you had to rebuild the community again?
100%. It was, we really tried for the longest time. First we resisted moving over or moving at all. But as it became clear that hashtags were being throttled, people weren't seeing things in chronological order, it became harder for people to even know that the chat had started because they weren't seeing the initial tweets.
Yeah.
So,
We weren't
first
getting those notifications anymore when a chat was going live.
exactly. So then, we flirted with doing some audio chats on Twitter. But then we just eventually started doing LinkedIn audio that we could also then stream over to Twitter. So that way we could still engage our audience over there. So we
Yeah.
did the slow burn. First, we did the audio, both places. And then a little over a year ago, we finally felt like people were comfortable enough with signing up to do the live streams, because at first people were like, audio was fine, but the idea of doing live streams like this on video, people were still hesitant about doing that. They're like, I don't want to have to like worry about what I look like. And, it freaked people out. But eventually it became clear that video was going to be our best format and give us the most options for what to do with the derivative content. So we did switch over to that. And for the longest time, we were streaming over to Twitter, but around the time that they rebranded, they also required you to pay for a blue check in order to continue streaming on the platform. And I had zero desire to do that. So we just sunsetted the live stream over there. And we actually deleted our company account, and I deleted my personal account despite all of the good feelings and memories I had
Yeah.
and the large community with the, like 14,000 followers. Just deleted it. And because it was no longer that place where marketers were having that sense of community and those conversations. So we're 100% all in on LinkedIn. And, while it's certainly not the same, because when content chat's now a conversation between me and my guest, we do have, folks who are watching live who ask questions, and we will, put them up on the screen and we will answer their questions in real time. But there isn't as much of that back and forth. So it did change a little bit, change the DNA and the structure.
Absolutely. And we mentioned how lively the Twitter chats were, and that whole time it was just so I just really an infectious spirit, but very robust because you had to keep up with all these different conversations.
Gosh, typing
Yeah,
fingers.
not only the main conversation, which is the Twitter chat itself, but all the little side conversations that were going on with your friends and things. And I agree with you. We can't replicate that same kind of sense of community via a live stream. We can definitely have a sense of community around the topic, but it does feel like there's less of that engagement on a live stream. And so it is a tough format to switch to if you are okay with knowing that there's a lot of value in the replay of your live stream. It's not necessarily the live viewers, but definitely some value to the replay. So that's a different switch into format. So, because of that switch of thinking about the format, like as you mentioned, you're switching to a conversation, such as you and I are having now, whereas Twitter chats before, you popped out a question and your guest could answer it, but all of the folks who were involved could also
Yeah,
answer it. And I kind of wish we could get to that point too with
that would be so
the
cool.
live streams. That would be kind of fun, but I definitely have to have a producer, right?
Yes,
to keep up
100%.
with to keep up with the comments. So what are some other things as far as the live stream that you wish that we could have, like on LinkedIn or on Facebook or wherever we do our live streams, that would help us to emulate that community that Twitter chats used to have?
I think if we could do live polling, I think that would be really nice, because that would be a way to be able to engage the folks who are watching live, let them give some feedback. And, just seeing a poll come up on the screen is the kind of thing that I think would also get people excited about commenting. Because I think,
Oh, I like that.
because when people see video, they kind of slip into viewer mode, but I would really like people to be in engagement mode. So I think having polling would be something that would be really helpful. Or even like in the old days, how the Twitter Hangouts and stuff, where you could see the little, the little avatars of the people. That
Yes.
way people would have more of that sense of I'm in a room with other people and see who was there. There's something about that that just makes people more likely to engage than when they can't really tell who else might be there or not.
Oh, I like that idea. Definitely. Okay, Streamyard, did y'all hear that? Interactive poll, feature for our live streams. But also thinking about audio, when you switch to audio, if I remember correctly, you could invite someone in or someone could
Yeah,
request to come in and share a comment. And I wish that could be done easily on live stream too. I mean, I guess you could if you shared the URL or the link publicly, but
yeah.
it takes some vetting. So there are some different things. But yes, while I think it's really great to have a live stream where you're able to share much more information than say a 280 character tweet, right? It does hinder that sense of community and engagement, and people really just it felt like a cocktail party to me on
It
Twitter.
did. It did in the best way.
But in the best way, exactly. Alex says, plus side of live streams, however, is you can convey a lot more emotion and personality easier than text. Oh, for
That's
sure.
fair and accurate.
Very, very accurate point. And so, as you're building up or rebuilding your community here with live streaming, what are some things you found that have been super successful that you would advise others who are thinking about either switching to a live stream or starting their own live stream?
Well, for me, I think some of the stuff that's really worked well is, making sure that we get those events up as early as possible on LinkedIn. So that way people have time to share that they're going. I also have really, I make a point of encouraging people to RSVP because if they do that, then they actually get notified when the stream starts. And also, and then they'll see the replay
Mhm.
more readily. Because I think a lot of people are worried that, oh, if I click on this, am I going to get spammed? Am I going to get added to an email list or mailing list? So I do, I make sure that people know that if they RSVP, all it means is that they're going to actually know when we start up. So I think that's been really useful. And because it's video, we've also started archiving the chats on YouTube, which then we embed the full chat in the recap, as well as calling out the key moments in the recap too. So that's actually been a huge change that I also think has brought us more live folks involved too, because they'll go and they'll see on our website those recaps. They'll see the range of the conversations, and that we're having really juicy conversations with people who are truly experts in what they do. And once you see that, you're like, oh, I want to watch the next one live because I want to ask questions. So,
Absolutely. No,
so I think
I think I think like you do in the same way that I don't go live on YouTube because I want to be able to have a little bit of editing on the video and sharing all that information that's pertinent on YouTube so that people can then watch it and know
yep.
that hey, we do want to watch live in the future. How else do you repurpose your videos?
So we do a transcript of every single video, and got to say, like right now, I'm working on writing a book on content governance, and I'm going back to those transcripts and to those great quotes to one have ready-made quotes that I could just reach back out to people and go, hey, do you mind if I use this quote? But also, it's helping me figure out who do I want to do a fresh interview with in order to include a little mini case study. So, repurposing is so important. And having the stuff be in video content and then having all of those transcripts in one place that's searchable and that, AI can help me parse through means that I can repurpose things myriad ways.
Exactly.
It's just amazing. So much more possibility. Alec is freelancer, but he's been part of my team for most of this journey. Alec is really good with creating fun visuals, so that's something that we're trying to make a point to do a little bit more of, is taking some of the great quotes or some of the distilling, if people are like, here are 4 great ideas, taking some of those bite-sized pieces of content
Uh-huh.
that people come up with in the chat and creating really easy visuals and putting those in the recap as well. So basically repurposing for all the things.
I love it. And a lot of the conversations, if not all of them, are things that are evergreen, right? Aside from, updates on different tools and things. And so it's something that will not ever be not relevant for a marketer. So I love that. So people always ask me about tools. What tools do you use for live streaming, for repurposing? I'd love for you to share your tech stack, as they call it.
Well, I use Streamyard for recording all of my live streams and any kind of like small webinars that I do too. It's really easy to use, and it has actually a lot of flexibility as far as how it lets you do branding. It lets you have different kinds of banners, slugs that you use, have, opens and closes, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's really customizable. I really like that.
Yeah.
But then, although they do have the ability to do a transcript, which is helpful for creating the captions for YouTube. I actually bring in the whole video into Otter, which is an AI voice meeting note tool. And I have Otter go through and create a real, broken out by speaker transcript. So not just a timestamp transcript. But that is so cool because it will also give me like an outline that I can then use that has the timestamp, so I can paste that into YouTube and have it be the guide to here's where to skip ahead to if you're looking for a specific topic of interest. So I find that to be super helpful. But in addition to that, then of course I just use Canva for any kind of visuals. I use Grammarly, just the usual things. And I've used Descript a tiny bit.
I have been using Cast Magic for the transcript because you're right. Well, as much as I love StreamYard, I use it for live streaming as well. The transcript is a TXT file, which I'm not about to have to reformat. Right? So I've been using Cast Magic, but I'm looking for another tool because it's just there, right? I'm happy enough with it, but I'm not like over the moon happy with it. So I may check out Otter again because in the past it didn't have these other capabilities. So thank you for sharing about those tools. And then I wanted to share, Alex says, like Andy Cristodina told us, quote cards are a great visual to include in your content. Absolutely. And then speaking of content and being a content marketer, you have been an attendee at Content Marketing World for over 10 years, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And if y'all haven't seen it yet, she did a great takeaway from it, and I'll reshare it as well. But I'd love to get your thoughts and why you return. And then there's another event you just came back from called MarketingProfs. So I'd love to hear a couple of takeaways from MarketingProfs, and also why it's a great event for marketers and content marketers.
So I'm a huge believer in both lifelong learning and the power of being part of a community of your peers. I think we can learn so much from each other. And I mean, that was certainly a big impetus for me in taking the reins for Content Chat as well, because it's another peer-to-peer learning opportunity and community. So with both Content Marketing World and with the MarketingProfs B2B forum, they're, one, of course, is just focused on content marketing, which is the bulk of the work that I do, and that's CM World. While the other is focused on all things B2B marketing, which is helpful because almost all of my clients are B2B, with the exception of the clients I work with that are either in specialty food space, because I am gluten-free, or we do some work with membership associations, because one of my first jobs that I loved very much was being the head of publications, communications, and membership marketing for a large membership association.
Yeah.
And while that is technically, membership associations are, B2C, it's B2C, but with the B hat on, because it's about people and their
Why else
careers.
would they join a membership organization unless it's for some professional development or business reason, right?
Exactly. So for me, it's been really helpful to have these two really strong, outrageously helpful and engaged communities of marketers to, to go to these conferences, but to also interact with online. MarketingProfs and Content Marketing World, CMI, they both have active Slack groups. So you can keep in touch with people in between conferences. But really going to the conferences or just being immersed for a couple of days in the work that you do, where you can literally just turn to the person next to you and ask them a question or tell them something that you just had that aha moment and they know what you're talking about. And that is so magical because usually when you do this kind of work, if you try to talk to people about it, they say things to you like, oh, so you send the spam I get in my email inbox? Like, no, I don't. Thank you very much.
But it's nice to be able to have that conversation with, and then they understand what you're talking about, right? And no, I don't send the spam.
Exactly. And, we all have a limited amount of time in the day. So even if you are committed to lifelong learning, it's just so helpful to do an event like this where you have dedicated, program experts who've put together, these different tracks and found the best people to talk about the most relevant, interesting, timely topics. So you can do a deep dive in one area if you need it, or you can have kind of a smorgasbord approach where you pick a little bit of everything. And that for me has just been so valuable because I've learned so much and I've met so many amazing people that a lot of whom I've ended up collaborating with over the years because of these events. So yeah, I know it's a big commitment from a time and, resources standpoint, but I encourage everybody to find at least one of these kinds of professional communities that really speak to the kind of work you do or the people that you serve, and make a point of getting involved. Volunteer, that's a great way to go for free. If you have something unique to share and you like to present, you can put in a speaker submission. So there are a lot of ways that you can get involved and just kind of jump in, and for me it's just life changing to do that.
It truly is. And MarketingProfs is on my list. And I think I'm going to make it happen for 2025 because I do
Yay!
work in the B2B space as well. Plus, you get to see Ann Handley at both, right?
That's right.
You had just seen Ann Handley at Content Marketing World, and then you got to see her at MarketingProfs right there, worth the price of admission.
That right there is just such the jolt of inspiration and joy. Just being in such the environment of people who love what they do, that is so infectious. And I think we all need that because you can get so bogged down in your day to day and the things on your to-do list. It's just so nice to get that little energy boost again. And, to remember what it is that attracted you to this stuff in the first place.
Absolutely. And especially for those of us who are solopreneurs who work for ourselves, it's really great to be able to connect and reconnect with people in person that we may, perhaps talk to all year long through messaging or email. I love our CM World Slack channel. I can't even keep up with all the things that go back and forth. So I, set aside some time every few days and go back and try to catch up, right?
Same.
It is a very, very active community on Slack. So, in case you all are not connected with Erika yet, which you should be, here she is on LinkedIn, Erika Heald, very easily found. And then, of course, also erikaheald.com. So, again, very easily found online as well. Any final thoughts about live streaming, content marketing, or anything that we've discussed that you would like to share with the audience?
I would say just if you feel like it might be of interest to try it out with your audience, just try it out. You can do like a 30-day trial of one of the streaming tools in order to get going and just try it. The worst thing that happens is you decide you don't like it and then you never have to do it again. But you just might find that you really do enjoy doing it and that your audience is into it and that you're able to build that sense of community by putting yourself out there and being a little bit vulnerable. Because yeah, it's scary the first time you go out on a live stream video because inevitably the dog's going to bark because somebody comes to the door, or somebody's going to decide it's a good time to use a weed whacker right next door. These things are going to happen.
Or
And
I've lost my guest in the middle of the conversation because their connection went, gone dead.
right.
So
But it's like those things though, they just don't even matter. It's like, just get out there and just try it. So that's my big advice.
absolutely, as a well-known brand says, just do it.
Just do it.
And you just improve over the years. And I think, I mean, I look at the live streams that I did at the very beginning. I was like, oh my gosh. But we did it and here we are, and I truly do love live streaming. So I wanted to share again real quick, Erika's glutenfree kitchen.com, because a while ago I misspelled it and left off the N when I dropped it up on the screen. But also Content Chat is a weekly live stream, which is a heck of a commitment, right, Erika? Because I only do this monthly. I have 2 live streams and both of them are only monthly, and it's already a commitment. So don't feel like you have to have a weekly show either, just some consistency, and try it out there. And what day and what time does Content Chat come on LinkedIn?
Content Chat is on Mondays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, although we will not be having one next week because just about everybody I know is taking the whole week off for Thanksgiving, because especially if they have kids, the kids are out of school for the whole week. So we're skipping next week, but we are typically around every Monday unless it's a holiday.
Absolutely. And I think we can find the slew or the whole library of videos either on your LinkedIn profile or on YouTube, correct?
Right.
And is the YouTube channel, is it Erika Heald as
Sure
well?
is. I'm very boring that way.
No, not boring. Easy to find, my friend. Absolutely easy to find. So this has been such a great conversation, and I appreciate you being my guest. And I absolutely adore you and just am so thankful for you being on today and sharing all of this information and insight that you've had from taking a very popular and lively and robust brand that was on Twitter and shifting it over to another channel. I mean, it is work, but it can happen and it can be successful, as
It was
Eric,
totally worth it.
and totally, yeah, totally worth it, especially on a platform that is essentially to most of us a dead channel. And so that's another lesson right there as well. Don't depend on social media channels, but that's another conversation for
MySpace,
another day.
Friendster, and all those things, Twitter now.
Exactly. And also, I am currently booking my guests for 2025. So, if you are a solopreneur, if you are part of a small but mighty marketing team, doing really great things and kicking butt out there in the marketing world for your brand, I would love to hear from you and feature you on the show in 2025. So, that's where you can find the guest submission form. And I have an amazing guest next month as well, but you'll hear more about that because I'm not stealing Erika's thunder right now. But if you've not connected with Erika, I highly encourage you to do so, because not only does she have great insight on live streaming, but content marketing as a whole. And I think you have a newsletter as well on LinkedIn, if I'm
Yep,
not.
the Content Chat Bulletin. And we post it, it goes out first to all the subscribers via email. And then we post it usually within the next 24 hours on LinkedIn. So you can subscribe there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Erika, for being on here today. And for those of you who are catching the replay, please feel free to drop comments and questions. We will make sure that Erika gets any questions back to you. And in case I don't see anybody or talk to anybody before then, happy Thanksgiving here in the United States. If you celebrate, happy Turkey Day.
Eat lots of pie.
I know. I'm looking forward to turkey, all the fixings and pie, because that's, comes once a year. You've got to indulge yourself. So have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, everyone. We'll see you soon on a live stream.
Bye, everyone.